Hey, hey, hey! It's Crash Cannon. I'm Chris, and I've got a guest today. Who are you?
I'm Jason. I'm co-host of a arguably defunct TEX CATHEDRA podcast.
Defunct? What? I was just on there. It's not defunct.
Yeah, it's just not very active anymore. But yeah, so that's that's something that we used to do quite a bit as a hobby, and then there's just some other things that I've taken on that take up our time. So
Like jujitsu?
that's mainly it. Yeah,
Yeah. And I bet you could probably kick a lot of people's butt at that,
definitely marks.
huh? Does he do it too?
No, no, no. I've been trying to
Okay.
get him to do it with me for like a year now, but I know he's got his own schedule.
Here, I'm just gonna share a screen real quick. See if you recognize what this is. Let me see.
Uh,
Whoa, share screen. I did have a quote I was going to use tonight, but unfortunately I can't find it now because that's how things work. All right, let's see. Here it is. What is that?
I've never seen that before.
Who's that guy?
That is the guy that I can smoke in jujitsu.
Although apparently some guy on Twitter is claiming he beat you in a Twitter argument, so there's that.
Oh well, that's everybody knows that's false.
Clearly it was Anthony's alt account, one of them, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. That's the only way Anthony can beat me is with an alt account.
All right. Well, on that note, uh, let's hear about. Well, it used to be what Trad Men.
Yeah, it was Stradman.
So what
Uh,
what happened? How come you guys changed the name? Where what? How did this even get started?
well, it's kind of weird how the whole thing came together. So me and Mark had gone to the same fraternity parish, and we'd met a couple times, but just brief exchanges. I was actually on a job in California, and I get a random
Really?
text. Yeah, yeah, I get a random text one night from Mark because we were in the same Knights of Columbus group chat. So he got my number from there, and had texted me because I guess a week or two before he had sent a basically a group message, a picture of his new podcast and equipment, was telling everybody he's gonna start a podcast. And I forgot exactly how we got to it, but anyway, he randomly texted me that night, says, "Hey, we should get a beer sometime." I was like, "Yeah, that'd be cool. You got anything on your mind, or you just want to hang out, or what?" And he was like, so we started talking about the podcast, about starting one. He was like, "Hey, you." As we got further into discussions, I am the third most famous trad man. Um,
Who's the
no,
second then?
oh, I don't know. Like I did it as a joke one time. Like we can have like underneath your
Yeah,
name
yeah, yeah.
or whatever. One time I put on there, I put third best host on Tradman podcast. It's just a joke because I'm kind of into self-deprecating humor. So yeah,
Yeah.
Mark Haley's right. Mark is one and two.
One and two.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, Mark had messaged me, and the idea of Tradman came out because I'm not real creative on stuff like that, especially on like naming and being creative and doing play on words and everything. And he said, "Do you want to change the name?" Because I was thinking Tradman, just like Madman, and I was like, "No, that's fine. I don't doesn't matter." And we started we started doing the podcast under Tradman, and then we just kind of wanted to. We felt like we were kind of getting cornered in the sense that Tradman, because we would talk more than just traditional, what you would consider traditional Catholic topics. We were I kind of felt we were cornered. Mark was fine with it. And then, we were talking with Anthony and Rob one day on a group text we're on, and we kind of just started thinking about alternate names. Anthony had actually been trying to get us to change it for a while, but we're like, no, we don't care that much. But I think Mark is the one that came up with TEX Cathedra, obviously off excommunication.
Yeah,
And
I mean that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. So yeah, and that's how it got started. And then it's kind of weird how things work. You know, me and Mark didn't really know each other 3 or 4 years ago, and now we're best friends. He doesn't live too far from me. We hang out. We don't hang out as much as we'd like to because of family obligations and everything else. We're actually think tomorrow we're talking about playing golf tomorrow, or maybe helping at the night's fish fry instead. Because Mark said he feels like that's what Jesus would want us to do. So,
Just golf earlier in the day and then jump to the fish fry.
yeah. Well, if you've seen me golf, I'm gonna need all day to finish 18 holes.
Well, you only do 9 then. Just do a half, and then you go to the fish fry, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, so the podcast really was actually a blessing in many ways. I felt like I evolved and learned more about my faith just in general, but I also evolved in a lot of my viewpoints on certain things. Like I said, we've met a lot of great people in real life over this podcast, so it's been nothing but positives for both of us. And I would like to do it more, but like I said, just with family obligations and the goals I have in other aspects of life, yeah.
Well, I understand that. I went from doing a podcast basically daily when I was doing it like 4 or 5 years ago, down to like once a week, down to once a month, down to like now whenever my co-host and I actually can do it. So this new thing is just me, so I can kind of plan it around my own schedule. It actually is easier than I thought doing it on your own. So long as you can actually, get guests on, because doing it by yourself and just talking to a camera, not so much fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say doing a podcast by yourself is significantly harder than having somebody else. Because Mark's done episodes by himself. I even did one by myself, which I didn't think it was very good, but I did it with a sister talking about religious vocation for women, and she just had such a bad connection. We weren't able to actually get us both on at the camera. So Mark was like, "Hey, you take over this one. That's fine." He's like, "You have daughters. You talk to her." So I did, but it's definitely a lot more nerve-wracking too, especially when you're not used to it.
Yeah, I got used to it after my co-host, my previous co-host and I. There was many podcasts where he would do it by himself, or I would do it by myself. So we had a lot of time to really get used to that. It's actually a blessing in disguise that I kept that podcast going so long, because now doing this one, I'm totally comfortable in front of a camera and a mic. And I'd like to be at that point, doing something like this.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I know when we started, it was very uncomfortable in front of the mic, but then just doing that, and I did a lot of trivia on Avoiding Babylon and stuff like that.
You skipped last Thursday. No.
Well, I tell you what, the contestants better be glad I did. I
we were terrible. That was probably one of the worst showings that could have happened for his last trivia.
I think everybody's giving y'all a harder time than what it really was. But but to be honest, that's just the audience, right? Like, and I find it funny and enjoyable when people are like that. I know some people don't, but
no, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I just knew after the first few questions, like, oh no, Anthony's delving into stuff that I haven't memorized. So this is not going to be good for me.
Well, like I remember one of the questions I missed, and it wasn't that I missed it. It's that, so he said, in the traditional liturgy, in the traditional Latin Mass, how many times does the priest genuflect when he's consecrating the body and blood of Jesus, right? When he's doing that. I had said 2, in the sense that because I was thinking he genuflect after he does the consecration, he genuflects, comes back up, he holds it up, and then he goes again. But I forgot to double it. So of course I got a hard time for that. They're like, "No, that's Novus Ordo. I thought you went to Latin Mass." I was like, "Well, I just didn't double it," which whatever.
Fair enough. Hey, what's this uncle thing? Why do they all call you Unc?
I mean, all these young Zoomers here, they look to me as a mentor, I guess, and they especially Antony here. He no, they just added me to a group on what's it called, Twitter, and we kind of interact all day, because I'm a lot older than them. I mean, I just turned 43 yesterday, and I think all these guys are in their 20s. I think one guy is in his 30s, so they just call him. I guess I've graduated to Unc status.
Well, yeah, I realized during that trivia podcast with Anthony and Rob that other than Anthony and Rob, I think I was literally the oldest guy by at least 5 years.
How old are you?
I'll be 33 this year. The rest of the guys were in their 20s.
Yeah, you're young. Yeah, yeah, you're young. Anthony, me and Anthony are actually the same age. We're born the same year. I don't know who's actually. I don't remember when his birthday is, but
You guys are both like the start of the millennial generation.
yeah. So we were born in '82, and I think the millennials, on average, depending on what you look at, it says about '81. So yeah, we're
You guys
older
you guys
millennials.
barely make it. You're like, all right, you
Yeah.
could choose kind of. You want to be Gen
Thank
X
goodness. I mean, I know people give millennials a hard time, but I don't want to be in Gen X.
You know what's sad about Gen X? I was watching a Lazarus. We let
Yes,
different.
and we are. I mean, I'm not ashamed of Lazarus. So I mean, I've gotten our good friend over Integrated. Have you ever watched a podcast Integrated with Angela Erickson?
I tuned into one she did with Nick Cavazos.
Okay. Well, she has a lot of episodes, and we met her also through our podcast, and we've become friends with her through the years. And like I said, she does really good content. So check her out if you've never checked it out. On one of those shorts you see there, I got her to screw up in one of her interviews. And
Did she say Lazarus?
Yeah. So the one that says raising who, she says Lazarus, and she's like, dang it, Jason.
That's amazing.
So,
It's always funny when you can kind of get those Easter eggs into like your friends' shows where they're like
Yeah.
not even realizing they messed it up, and then it's like, oh yeah, got him. Yeah. Obviously, we got to talk about the Mayan rite somewhere here, since you didn't get to get your words in with your co-host on his single-handed dismantling of the Mayan rite.
yeah. I don't know if I have anything to say about that.
No, I'm joking around because I had put it in the Twitter comment, and I said we're gonna talk about his heresy of dismissing the Mayan rite. Anyway,
No. Anybody that follows me on Twitter know I'm a Sam Wright supremacist.
Serum right? Yeah. So do you guys have one down there?
No, so I mean,
Ordinariate,
I
I mean.
yeah. So we have actually the cathedral here is here in Houston. So the Bishop Lopes and all of them is here in Houston. So this is it's a really it's a pretty good sized parish, especially being in Houston, and it's the cathedral and everything else. But no, I mean the whole samurai kind of started. It was just a big joke too, because I think Mark on an episode one time on AB had mentioned he thought it was similar to the Sarum Rite, and of course you've got some ultra strict autistic type people who are like, no, that's not it, and they just go off for days. So I just started playing off of it. I'm like, I don't care, like really don't care.
I tried looking up like the history of the Sarum Rite, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the Sarum Rite was around pretty much from around like 1000 AD-ish through like 1500 around the Reformation, when the English like totally parted from Rome, and then Rome's like, forget you guys, like we no more English liturgy.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I guess if that's there's obviously a lot of more nuances to that.
Oh sure.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the really short TLDR Gen Z can understand version.
But it was also supposed to be extremely similar to the traditional Latin Mass anyway. I know there was a few differences, but I'm not gonna.
Oh no, I'll take
know what all those were.
I will take Dr. Peter Kwasniewski's word for that one. He talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
You bring up the Ordinariate, and immediately he starts shaking his head, and he's like, we need Sarum right back. And I'm like, how do you even like have you ever been to one? Like, how do you know this? But he studied it. Yeah. And he knows what he's talking about.
The funny thing is I actually just read this. Yeah, I just read this the other day, that even though the Sarum liturgy is not practiced anymore, we still have all the books for it, that they know what it looked like. They could easily start it again if they wanted.
Well, yeah, they were maintained by the Anglican Church. I mean, that's where they get their Book of Common Prayer, that they like the 1634 or whatever is basically based on the Sarum Rite. And if you go back, like it's not like the English immediately switched their liturgy after they broke communion with Rome.
No, yeah.
So it was maintained for a while.
Yeah, there are some similarities early on, but yeah, obviously it started to diverge.
Then we get then you get Cranmer in there, and you get the Novus Ordo and Anglican style.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
you don't attend Ordinary. You attend Latin Mass, correct? Or Novus Ordo, or both.
actually this past year I've been mainly at the ordinariate
Okay.
parish in here. I still go to our fraternity parish because I mean we really like it there. But I don't know. Just past year we've been mainly at the ordinariate.
How do your kids like it?
They no, they like it. I think I'm trying to think. I think my oldest daughter, she still prefers the Latin Mass. Because see, when we came into the church, we started out like most people in the Novus Ordo, and then probably a year after that, we started going to the fraternity prayers here, and then hang on one second.
Technical difficulties or something else?
Yeah, just my screen went blank here.
Oof, no good. You still hear me though, right?
Yeah, I can still hear you. So
you gotta bring the screen back like Lazarus.
Yeah, gotta bring it back from the dead. Hang on one second.
We can all still see you. You need to mute your screen for a minute. Let's see. Okay, while Jason's doing that, I'm going to give you guys a little trivia. Which, I think it was a pope. Which pope said that Mozart was too modern for the Catholic Church? That's the question today. Which pope said that Mozart was too modern for the Catholic Church? Let's put that up on a banner here. Remember, one more time, the question is, and hopefully we'll get an answer by the end of this podcast, but which pope said Mozart was too modern for the Catholic Church? And if Jason gets it right now, we just end the podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
I have no idea.
So there it is.
Pius V?
Nope. There we go. Which pope said Mozart was too modern for the Catholic Church? And if you can guess the year and the country he's from, probably Italy. If you can guess the country he's from, then you win a prize. I don't know what it is yet, but you'll get a shout out, that's for sure.
Well,
we'll figure it out by the end.
The good thing is you can pick whoever the winner is, whether they won or not.
I could just say it was Pope Francis. No, I'm just kidding. I doubt it. He probably would not have a problem with Mozart. Although I think actually more likely the reason why Mozart was too modern for the Catholic Church probably had more to do with his Freemasonry than anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know. Every generation thinks the newest stuff is too modern, and I mean there is some truth to that, but I mean,
yeah, well, no, I think the current like Novus Ordo attending people who are more conservative would say that the music is too folksy in 70s. They would not say it's too modern, although it is too modern. I agree with that. It's just
yeah. I mean, you're right, and I mean, obviously there is a line to be drawn, and like just obviously just because something is newer or more modern doesn't make it bad, and just
no, it doesn't,
and vice versa. Just because it's modern doesn't make it good either.
Like I mean, you can if you look into Josephus, like they had like stringed instruments at the temple, so like clearly that was never against. Although to be fair, Josephus was there when the temple fell, so maybe I shouldn't take his word on plucked instruments being a good thing. But I mean, they were there even when David and all them were doing their thing. So there was obviously worship of God with stringed instruments.
Yeah, and you want to hear something interesting? I came just quick fact: the denomination I converted from was all a cappella. They did not
really.
Yep, it was all instruments. They didn't see authorization for instruments in the New Testament, so they didn't do it.
Okay. Well, so how did you even become Catholic? What was your story?
So at the time we were living in Wyoming. So we moved to Wyoming. We lived there between 2015 and 2018. And I really don't know how it kind of got on my radar. But probably maybe a year and a half, whatever the time frame was, before we converted, we had just had our fourth son, and or our fourth kid. He was our second son, but I had actually gone to the doctor and was going to get a vasectomy scheduled.
Really?
And we were coming back from Mount Rushmore. And to be completely honest, I was just kind of scared to do it. I was like, man, I don't know if I want them clipping around down there too much. I don't know if I want to deal with that, you know.
Yeah,
So
I understand what you're saying.
I looked at my wife and I jokingly said, I said, well, the Catholics say that it's a sin to do so, so I probably shouldn't do it. And she said, well, we're not Catholic. And that I don't know, that I guess that's
And
kind
you
of
converted that day, huh?
yeah,
No.
that day I was done just to protect myself. But
Right.
no, so then it's just after that, it seemed like I just started thinking about it more. And I'd actually scheduled an appointment to go talk to the RCIA director at one of the Catholic churches in Casper, Wyoming. Never ended up making it. Fast forward, probably several months later, we moved to Houston, and in January. And every day from the office, I drive by a Catholic church. It's like 5 minutes down the road from here.
Mm-hmm.
And one day in February, I just turn in, I go talk to her. And I just started attending. I started missing Wednesday night Bible study at our parish, and my wife was still going there with the kids. And I was going to their RCIA program. And I just kept doing that. My wife, actually, her first liturgy she ever went to was Easter Vigil.
Easter Vigil.
She was like a 3-hour liturgy.
Are you roboting on my end too, or is it just me?
On board, but she also really wasn't fighting me at the time. And I was doing a lot of, at that time, I was just reading and consuming through Formed. If I was in the truck, I was listening to Formed.
Isn't that what Anthony used to listen to too? Was Formed, or was that something else he was listening to?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't really know.
I know he was listening to some Protestant stuff on the radio too, but so you were listening to Formed specifically.
Yeah, I was listening to like a lot of Brent Petrie's talks and other people. I was just consuming everything that I could get, and I was reading like crazy. And then I would, if something that I thought was really interesting, I would talk to my wife about it, or I'd ask her a question. Hey, what do you think about this or whatever? And probably that July, she then entered RCIA with me, and then November, we on Feast of Christ the King on the Novus Ordo calendar, we entered the church at the end of November, right before Advent.
So you did RCIA through the Novus Ordo parish?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually had, I know people complain about all that. We actually had a really good experience in RCIA. I mean, there was a few things that I didn't like, but overall, it was nothing but positive experience for us.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. I don't have any experience with RCIA just because my wife and I, neither of us are converts. So
yeah,
we're just cradle to grave Catholics, So Anthony claims we get better indulgences. I don't buy that.
There's no way.
It's funny because I feel like when you convert as an adult, you miss out on some of like the formation parts of like the Catholic Church. So like, there's things that I have like memorized that as an adult I'd have a much harder time memorizing at this point. Yeah. Like you just do it like out of habit, but as a convert, you're fully like intellectually converting especially as an adult going into the Catholic Church. I feel like there's more there for you to intellectually absorb.
Yeah.
Because when you do it in 8th grade, you're like, you're in 8th grade. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, really. That's when you get confirmed.
Yeah, and if we're honest, I mean, obviously there are kids that are definitely good kids that are striving for holiness.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that. But when I went through catechism, it was weak. It was very weak.
Yeah, no, I mean, the point I'm just getting at is that as a kid, most kids, even the good ones, are not usually into the intellectual side as much as you would be, like, to your point, as when you're an adult.
Yeah, converts, I feel like, get a lot more out of the catechism process or like the RCIA, just because you are formed intellectually more so than if you go through it 8th grade and get confirmed, which is why I think we kind of. And I had this conversation earlier. I think we kind of like if you just have your kid figure it out from 8th grade to adulthood, you're kind of failing the kids. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if you're there and you're teaching them and they're learning stuff from you with the faith, then your kids will turn out great. There's no reason why they can't figure it out. But if you just kind of say, "Oh, catechism's done," figure it out from here on out. Like, there's no way these kids, like, unless they're like really well formed going into that, like, you just kind of throwing them into the water with no paddle.
Yeah. Well, and as I say, the real teaching is done at home anyway.
Exactly.
Like the catechism classes and our CCD and everything else, religious education, whatever you want to call it. That's all should just be viewed as a supplement to what you're doing. Now, obviously, you need to make sure that it's orthodox teaching, because at the end of the day, volunteers are teaching it and they can be wrong, just like I can be wrong.
Yeah, the catechist is only as good as they have chosen to brush up on the material.
Right.
I briefly I did catechism as a catechism teacher, and I can tell you that the 1 year I did it, I was like, I don't think I want to do it at the last stage after these kids have gone through, who knows, as catechists for kindergarten through 7th grade, and then I'm just getting them at the tail end. I'm like, no, I don't like this, because I don't want to have to clean up or fail at 8th grade. So
you want to hear
it's not easy.
You want to hear something funny?
What's that?
COVID actually saved me, because I had overextended myself quite a bit. So
what do you mean by that?
So at the end of or at the start of religious education, start of that year, which is what, August, September, roughly.
Yeah.
Like lines with the school year.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done an Acts retreat?
Which one?
The Acts retreat. Have you ever done that?
The Acts retreat?
Yeah, ACTS, Acts retreat.
I don't think I have. No.
Okay. Well, right after I got confirmed, my sponsor, who is actually him and his wife. They're older than us. I'm the same age as their kids, but he actually came from the same faith background I did. But anyway, they've become like the godparents to most of our kids and everything else. And we view them as family. But anyway, after I got confirmed, he was like, you need to do this Acts retreat. So I signed up and did it. So I was going to volunteer for an Acts retreat because I'd already done one, but I was going to volunteer to help out. I'd done prison ministry a few times. I was going to do that again. I had signed, and then my older kids, they're in sports, little league sports. Then I had signed up to teach religious education. I'd convinced my wife to do it. I mean, if you know my wife, that's really out of her wheelhouse. She does not like doing, she's very much an introvert. And so I convinced her, let's do 3rd grade. They're young kids. You ain't got to worry about it. So we did that. They were really needing more religious education teachers. And so I said, I'll do 7th graders on Sunday. And man, when COVID came around, I was like, oh, I'm glad they canceled all this, because man, I was overextended quite a bit, and I have not made that mistake since. Because you're a new convert, you got this enthusiasm, you're ready to take on the world, and then you quickly learn I took on too much.
Yeah, you get humbled very quickly. God, it's almost like God's coming in. He's like, that's too much. Why don't you slow down?
Yeah.
And I've run into that situation a lot in my life. I tend to put myself out there too much, and I am very introverted, so like for me putting myself out there, it gets a little much very quickly. I can do the social thing for a week or two, and then I crawl back into my shell for a little while, and I'm like, all right, no more social for me. Podcasting is a nice happy medium for me, because I can do it from the comfort of my home and not have to worry about going anywhere.
Right. Most of the time I'm kind of an extrovert, but just depends on my mood that day. And I always tell people, if I like you, I'm talking to you. If I don't like you, then I just ignore you completely.
Well, clearly, since you haven't signed off yet, you don't dislike me.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. So Rob had me take that temperament thing. I know you guys took it too, right?
I've never taken it. I know they were big
I thought you did.
For a while. No, I don't remember ever taking it. If I did, I don't recall.
Rob claimed which temperament you were, so I'm going to go by what Rob said. And apparently, if what Rob said is true, you and I and Mark all have the same temperament, literally.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going by what Rob said, so.
I might have taken it. I just don't recall. I mean, it would have been a few years ago, because I know for a while they were really big on that. Like, they even brought the people in to interview, and everything else. But yeah, I don't remember what my temperament was. I don't even remember what the 4 temperaments are. I know it's melancholic and then whatever else.
Yeah, I had like choleric, melancholic, I think, and I think he said you guys both had that too.
Yeah, maybe.
So, yeah, and maybe Rob just like showed up with his, his force multiplier, we'll call it for YouTube's sake, that had Mary on the side, and said, "You better take this, buddy." No, I'm just kidding. And you were like, "Fine, fine, okay." Don't need the to Phoenix or whatever, whatever he called it. I don't. He had a name for it. It was very interesting, but Rob likes that kind of stuff. What?
Oh yeah.
What about you and Mark makes it gel so well? Because I've heard a few of your podcasts, over the last few years, and I've listened to them all the way through. I don't just skip parts and do this and that. And
Yeah.
I'll put on like a 2-hour podcast or whatever the length of time is, and go mow the grass. That's what I like to do.
Right.
So if there's an interesting subject, I'm like, okay, pop it in. You guys have had a few in the last year that I listened to. The Mayan Right one was probably the most recent one I actually listened to. I don't listen to your Gnosticism one because the guy you brought on, that guy's a dummy. I don't know why you guys interviewed him.
We're thinking about taking it off. Don't worry.
Oh, did I tell you, you guys? I had to take it off the Krillcast channel. You know why?
Why?
I got hit with a copyright strike for the music.
Okay, we get hit with those, but Mark, we need to go in and challenge that because Mark says he bought the rights to it. He's like, I have the receipt that I bought the rights to this. So he just, I don't know how to do that. I need to talk to him about it because all of ours have copyright because of that.
Yeah, exactly. So like a lot of times, unless you wrote the music yourself, you have to go in and like self-claim that, okay, I've got the rights to use this, blah 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 blah.
Yeah. No, Mark bought the rights for that last one. I know the first one that we had. I think he may have even bought the rights for that. I don't know. He was the one looking into all the music at the time. But yeah, no, it shouldn't be copyrighted. We just got to go through the process to show them, hey, we bought this.
I didn't buy the rights, so when I co-streamed it, I knew that I was in hot water. So I was like, all right, killed it.
I got you.
But I left it up for a week or so. Hopefully, it drove you a couple subscribers because you guys really do deserve that 1,000 to get. Are you guys monetized or not?
Not yet. We I mean, especially now, we don't have the hours listed to. We were getting kind of close for hours, but then we don't have the 1,000 either. I mean, we're getting close.
They did reduce it. It's like 500 now. You can get it at 500, but there's a different there's like 3,000 hours now.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at it recently. I mean, to be honest with you, I want to get back into podcasting because it's enjoyable. It's just squeezing in the time for it because, like I said, I mean,
well, when you got to coordinate 2 schedules and then all your kids and your wife,
yeah,
it gets to be a bit much.
Yeah. So, and then my wife does on the side, and some evenings she'll do. She's a sports photographer, I mean, really, she's a homemaker, but she's always loved photography. So as some of our kids got older, she kind of got into sports photography. So she'll do that at the high school football games, and she's even done a couple when our kids were wrestling in Fort Worth a couple years ago. They had an Olympic qualifier there.
Olympic qualifier in the wrestling, in high school?
No, just for the guys that are trying to qualify to.
Oh, okay. I see
the Olympics, an Olympic qualifier. So you had all your high level wrestlers, if anybody knows wrestling, they know who Spencer Lee is. I mean,
sounds familiar.
So she was up there. We were up there with our kids, and she was able to actually be a photographer for that as well. So, I mean, between that, which she doesn't do too terribly much. Between that, our kids. The extracurriculars they have, the extracurricular I have, spending time together as a family and all that.
Which is very important.
Yeah. There's just a lot of time taken up, but
that's actually one of the things I've literally just realized, I have subjects we were going to discuss and I have not touched a single one of them yet. So maybe we should get into those.
If you've been watching our podcast, we don't stay on topic very well.
So the one thing that has stuck out to me, because I grew up in a family where, and you grew up and converted, so that's even a totally different scenario. But there's a statistic on so if the dad doesn't attend church, then less than 25% of the kids continue to attend mass as adults, right?
Right.
And it gets worse over the years. It seems like it's almost 90% of the kids from a family where the dad doesn't go to church don't go. So it clearly. the presence of the dad in the faith life is extremely important. And I've read a book by Devin Schott. He's one of the co-hosts on Catholic Gentlemen. And basically, he says that, we're supposed to be like an image or an icon of the Father, the Heavenly Father on earth, so that our kids can associate God as like a father, like what we're trying to show them. Do you have any take on that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I've heard similar sentiments that, like, if you're not a good father or an absent father, well, then your kids, when you talk about God the Father, a lot of times that's going to be their viewpoint of God the Father, and it's going to really drive them away. I always found, I don't remember the numbers, but I always found that statistic very interesting. That, like you said, if the father alone is faithful in attending mass or church or whatever, the kids are still more likely to do it. If it's just a mother, I think the probability drops below 50%. Of course, if it's mother and father, then it shoots way up. And it really speaks to the importance of fathers and men, which our society as a whole, our secular society, really downplays the importance of us as fathers. I will say, just full disclosure, like a lot of us, there's been times where I've really struggled with my, with faith or with, whatever the case may be. But, I was talking to Mark a couple years ago about something. I said, but I'm not willing, like I still go to mass, no matter how I've ever felt in the past. I still go to mass, whatever the case may be, because I'm not willing to be wrong and then sacrifice my example to my kids about how important mass is. Because even though I may be, my faith may be struggling, or you're going through one of those dips, those down times where you're just really struggling in life. I'm not willing to sacrifice my kids because I know that I'm just in a dip right now. I'm not,
Yeah.
So it's like, even if it's like, whatever the case may be, I'm going to mass regardless. Because at the end of the day, my kids' souls are more important than anything else, including my own soul. I know my soul is important. I should care about that, but I am responsible for who they be. And people may disagree with that assessment, but that's how I feel. And I'm not willing to sacrifice those type things because I'm feeling sorry for myself,
Well, yeah, and if you go through the catechism and like the way the structure of the family is, like we are going to be held accountable for our wives and our kids. Right. At Judgment Day, like how we handled our faith is, and how that affected them is something we will be judged for. Just like a priest is judged by the fruits of his flock, and whether his flock continues to attend, or in every soul that he loses, he's going to be judged for that. Like that's on us with our own families, because that's like the small church. That's like our own family church, essentially. You know what I mean? So like, right. I agree. Like it is more important that we continue to set the example, even if we have doubts.
Right. And, and it's not that I've ever had doubts about God's existence.
Not doubts, but
yeah. I'm just saying, like, but I mean, just being completely honest about speaking for myself, there's been times where if something goes wrong or whatever, we don't always handle it like Job did. Sometimes we get angry, that doesn't go our way. And, that's why there are holier men than us. That's why we have the saints. That's why we have all these these great examples to look to, because most of us can't live up to that.
Yeah, it's so I've been reading Butler's Lives of the Saints, and I was like, I always thought like, oh yeah, the saints are just like us except more holy. But then you read the lives of the saints and you're like, no, they're not like us. They are set aside, and they're doing some crazy cool stuff. Like, you've ever heard of the Pillar Saints? You know what those are?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
I think it was mostly like in like India during like some conversions there, but the monks during Lent would live on a pillar. Like literally, they would have a pillar, they'd go up, crawl up to the top of it, and they would live the 40 days of Lent on top of a pillar in the middle of the sun, and just like barely eat, prostrate themselves up there, and like it was a show, it was a spectacle, and it did a lot of conversions.
Yeah,
because people are like, if that dude can sit up on a pillar in the sun all day long, well, he must have some pretty strong religion, pretty strong faith, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when you really start looking into the saints, I mean, yes, those are things that we should strive for, but most of us are not really mentally strong enough. We're not spiritually strong enough, and I mean that's just reality. We don't have, if you would want to say, those graces that they have.
I mean, yeah, the graces are only going to be given to so many people, like, and you have to be like set aside for that. Like,
Yeah,
people, it's almost like people get a little prideful. Like they think that just because they ask God for something, they're going to get it. But that's
yeah,
that prosperity gospel kind of slipping in, right? Like if
right,
you ask, just because you ask God for something, doesn't mean that in His infinite wisdom that He thinks that's good for you.
right,
Nobody would have said, "I want to be like Job."
right,
Nobody's
yeah,
gonna. Like, you're not gonna
yeah,
read the book of Job. I want to be like that guy. Like, no, no, it's just not gonna happen.
yeah,
But in God's infinite wisdom, that was the right thing for Job.
yeah, yeah. And when you look and compare yourself to people, sometimes you're like, well, why does this person, especially when you're younger. Okay, so I've said this example before. When I was younger, you see all, like a lot of kids, you see these athletes, you're like, man, I wish I was that fast, I was that strong, I was
Mm-hmm.
that tall or whatever. So I started like really thinking about that one day, and I was like, you know what, that might not have been good for me, like having those abilities, because it could have really altered, knowing my personality and all that could have really altered the way I act and the way I do. It might have, a lot of times those are blessings that you don't have. This, everybody has their own talents. I mean, we read about the parable of the talents and stuff like
Right,
that,
right.
right? You have, um, so sometimes you think you know what you want, but you really don't want it.
Or it's not right for you either, right?
Right.
Like for example, I've seen some really good athletes who are very humble, and clearly the fame
Right.
didn't get to their head, right? But then I've seen other athletes where it's like clearly the fame was nothing but a problem for them. And
Yeah.
it's like you see some of these athletes in the NFL, they get a DUI, they mouth off to police officers, they end up druggies, they take steroids. Like clearly this fame is can be more of a detriment for your faith life
Right.
than a positive. But then there's people like Harrison Bucker, and I respect kind of what he's been up to and how he's been very good at promoting the faith sternly but kindly, I would say charitably.
Right.
And so clearly that platform hasn't gone to his head and made him into a different person.
Right.
And so like I don't know what I would do if I had that kind of prowess in a sport or that kind of ability or that kind of fame and money. Like, can you imagine what your life would be like if you had that?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like the older I got, looking back now, there's no way that would have been good for me. If if God had granted me all the things that I've ever asked for, probably be a totally different person and not for the better.
Yeah, and then I look at it. I've heard this from people, so it's not like me specifically, I guess, but like I used to feel this way, where you look at like some of these people who aren't Catholic, who are getting everything they want. They're fully embracing the prosperity gospel, and some people, I mean, they get envious of it, and then it's like, so why doesn't God's people, the Catholics, uh, have the same level of prosperity and success all the time? And I think it's just because there's a lack of discernment in a lot of people. Because if
Yeah.
you don't discern your vocation, you don't discern what you're supposed to be doing with your life, how would you know?
Right.
Do
Yeah,
you have
and
any thoughts on that? Because I'm assuming the acapella probably not a prosperity gospel church, but
no, not at all. Not at all. It's actually, I always tell people, it's actually very similar in many ways to the Catholic Church, because um, they, it was a cappella, but they rejected faith alone. They taught the
which
necessity of
denomination
baptism.
was it?
The Churches of Christ, out of the Restoration movement. I know
Okay,
that
so
I know there's a few that call it something Church of Christ, but this is just Churches of Christ, and they came out of some people will call them Campbellites, because Alexander Campbell was one of the
I have
guys that
heard of
started
that.
it. Yeah, so but yeah, I mean, they reject faith alone, talk about the necessity of baptism, do talk about you do need to like do good works. Like it's not like just faith alone, like you have to have faith plus works, like James teaches. Um so But yeah, so it's definitely not a a
No,
prosperity
no, no.
gospel.
But then you see
And
preachers like what's his face, Kenneth Copeland, and those kinds of
oh,
guys.
we have one here in Houston, Joel Osteen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Didn't even want people coming into his stadium for the hurricane.
Oh, that yeah, that's a that turns into a pretty funny meme around here sometimes. Did you know that his church, the church he bought, used to be where the Houston Rockets played basketball?
Really? Well, I
Yeah.
guess that makes sense. He's got so much
Yeah.
darn money.
Yeah. So when the Rockets played there, it was called the Summit. And then after they moved into their new arena now, well, it's not new anymore, but Toyota Center downtown, Joel Osteen bought the Summit and converted to Lakewood Church.
Pretty wild. Actually, the funny thing about Joel is every time I've listened to him say anything at all, I'm just like, I didn't hear any hard line. Like, it's more like as vague as possible, like a fortune teller, where it's like, let me just say a bunch of words that sound nice and kind, and then not say anything remotely controversial.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with these prosperity preachers, right? Is they try to make everybody happy. And as my grandma told me when I was growing up, she's like, if everybody likes you, you're doing something wrong. You know, because you're being dishonest somewhere.
Sure.
You're being two-faced, and I mean that's just how a lot of these guys are, because that's how they make their money, right? If they piss a bunch of people off, their income's going to go down.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's actually one of the problems with Protestant churches. And I've read a few books about Protestant churches because I've got some Protestant friends. And like, read this book, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll read it, see what it is. But one of the things that the guys complain about, there's this guy Steve Diace. Have you heard of him?
What's his name?
Steve Diace, I think is how you pronounce it. Steve Diace, whatever it is. He wrote that book, Nefarious.
Oh, Nefarious. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He wrote the book is different from the movie. So if you read the book, I read the book.
I've
if you read the book, you did too.
No,
Or
I
you
haven't
didn't?
read the book. I've only seen
okay.
the movie. Yeah, yeah.
So,
I'm
so
actually
the book.
I'm actually friends with Sean Patrick Flannery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we actually had him on our podcast at one point.
Oh yeah, that's right. You guys did. I kept
Yeah.
thinking that was Anthony and Rob, but that was you guys.
No, that was because well, he didn't live here and he moved, but he yeah. So we actually met because his kids wrestle and my kids wrestle. So we met through wrestling, and then he's also like a black belt in jiu-jitsu and everything else. So he's but anyway, so yeah, I've seen the movie. I just haven't read the book.
That movie is awesome. When we did like a review of on my old podcast, we did a review of like the best media and entertainment of 2023 or 2024, whichever one it was. That was my top of my list. It was like that movie was way up there.
For sure. Like me and my wife saw it with Mark and his wife, and the thing that I thought the movie did so well was it showed that demonic influences and everything else is subtle. It's not like just right in your face like you see in some of these horror movies where people are climbing walls and this is very obvious. It's very subtle the way these temptations work.
Absolutely. But in the book, so getting back to what I was getting at.
Yes, yeah.
Steve Diace is a evangelical council elder, whatever that means. He's like one of the guys that sits in the administration of one of these evangelical churches. And so the complaint he has is that the elder pastor, whichever pastor is leading these churches of the Protestants, are not training a mentee. They're not being mentors. And that the new churches springing up are so beholden to the loans they take out when they start the churches that they can't say anything remotely controversial or the church will run out of money.
I believe it.
And that's one of the things I think that we are kind of blessed in the Catholic Church is we've already got the churches. They've been built. Like they've been built over the last 2 millennia, right? All over the world. And so like running out of money is not going to close down all the churches, and we have a lot of them. So like I'm not worried about that as much with the Catholic Church.
Yeah, not in that sense. I mean, we do have dioceses,
parish closing,
churches, yeah, because of financial issues. But even those, I think this is what you're getting at. Even though they shut down, you're still able to find a Catholic church in most parts of the world.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about Pastor Jim up and moving to Montana and all the church just shuts down and you're screwed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's one of one.
Yeah, exactly. You're in the one true church of Pastor Jim Bob.
Yeah.
But we don't have that problem. And most of the time, even if you don't like the priest that's currently at the local church near you, he's only going to be there for a period of like at most a decade. Usually 6 years, and then they move him.
Yeah, the one of the parish priests that was at the Novus Ordo we started attending and got confirmed in, he's being transferred, but I think he's been there 20 plus years.
It does happen. Like, I'm not saying it never happens.
No. I'm just to your point. I just like, yeah, you're right. Like, it doesn't. That's very unusual. We're getting a new Cardinal Donardo is retiring, so we're getting a new bishop, and he's moving people around, shuffling, and everything else. But yeah, 20 plus years is doesn't seem very common.
In the Archdiocese of Detroit, which is my home area, most priests are maybe 6 years, unless they're like the moderator of several parishes, and then they might get 12 years tops. Generally, though, they don't go longer than that.
Who's your bishop up there?
We just got a new one. We had Vigner on forever, and as much as Voris complained about him, I really didn't have any complaints because he kind of was like a hands off for the most part, only getting involved when things needed involvement.
Yeah.
I haven't seen enough of the new bishop we just got installed in March to really have an opinion yet.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't really listen to Voris that much, so I don't really know.
Well, did you hear what happened with him?
Mm-mm.
So they used to call their program, it was like online Catholic TV or something like that. It was something Catholic TV or whatever. But he kept ragging on Bishop Vigneron. And so, like, in order to use the word Catholic and remain in communion with the church, you have to have the permission of the bishop.
Right.
You think the bishop's going to give... Are you going to keep permission to use the word Catholic if you're just ragging on the local bishop all the time? That's not a good recipe for success. I mean, there's a level of obedience where I feel like if you're going to have problems with your local bishop, go and talk to him before you just start slandering him on the internet, because I think that's what St. Paul wants us to do in some of his letters.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have the guts to really...
We'll write a letter. You don't have to sign your name to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's easy ways to do it.
I mean, I say the guts. I mean, like, for something... I mean, obviously, if it's something egregious, yeah, I call him out. But I don't know that I'm going to really attack my bishop.
I'm not saying attack him. I'm saying talk to him.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about what voice.
Yeah. Fair enough. So then, they become church militant, and then things spiral downward. And I think church militant is maybe a name only at this point. I don't know if they're still doing anything.
Yeah, he got caught with, I guess, past sins, they said, or something. I don't really know.
I'm not here to judge or gossip. I just know that the church militant thing is. I'm pretty sure it's shut down. At least hiatus. I don't know if it's totally shut down. I know they got sued too. That was public.
Yeah.
I don't know what all came out of that, but I haven't seen a church militant thing in a very long time at this point.
Yeah, when I think it was, I don't know if that guy had been confirmed yet, but I'd come across church militant online, and I was watching it on TV, and just this whole tone and everything. I was like, I don't know. Is this guy Catholic? I don't know. So I just blew it off and never really watched. I mean, I would see like clips here and there, but I never watched any of his stuff.
So I just want to give a shout out. I just saw what was going on because the count of people watching keeps climbing like every 5 seconds. I don't know if you've noticed.
But I can't see the count on.
Oh, you can't see it?
No, since it's on yours, yeah.
We were at like maybe 15 to 20, and now we're at almost 100 people watching right now.
Are you streaming to Twitter?
Yes, but I figured out why. I figured out why though. It's because Tridentine Brewery just retweeted it, and then the numbers started climbing. So why don't you give them a little shout out?
I was gonna say, Trevor, over at Tridentine Brewery, he like I made a post the other day about it. Like he's probably one of the the best individuals I've ever met. Like I've actually met him at a Blessed Carl symposium a couple years ago up in Dallas. They do those yearly up there.
Hmm.
But I mean, the guy is constantly giving away free swag, free beer to people, and like he sent me a bunch of beers and stuff the other day, just random. I wasn't even expecting it. Like it just showed up, and he gives you handwritten cards. It's not like he's just a generic like it's a personal letter he writes you. So I can't speak too highly of Trevor. He's a really good guy. His beer is good. He sent me one IPA. He says it's gonna be good though. I'm not an IPA fan, but for Trevor, I'm gonna give it a shot. This Imperial Stout that he sent me, I actually really enjoyed that. Right now, what was it? 10% alcohol.
That's a pretty good. That's pretty good percentage.
Yeah, I didn't realize that till I was halfway through, and then. I've got a bunch of glass bottles that he had in the past when I met with him up in Dallas, and I don't really throw them away. I keep them because the artwork's pretty cool. So eventually, like right now, I don't really have an office or front room. I need to wall it off and do all that, make an office. But when I do that one day, I plan to take like the stuff he sent and these bottles and just kind of use it as a decoration. Because like I said, the artwork, yeah, and just having the office just in general. But yeah, Trevor's a good guy, and if any of your followers on here don't follow him, they should.
Absolutely. And as soon as he gets anything shipped anywhere near where I live, I will be driving to there and getting some.
Oh, I think you're gonna get it sooner than we are.
Sooner than do you think we'll get it in Michigan sooner than Texas?
Yeah, I would assume geographically you're much closer.
I know he's getting close. 'Cause I think he's talking to Ohio.
He's in
right
Wisconsin.
Now. Yeah, Wisconsin. Well, Wisconsin's that's a drive for me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm just saying though.
I'm nowhere near the Wisconsin. But if it's in Wisconsin, then it's probably going to go to our Upper Peninsula first.
Yeah.
Because there's some beer in the Upper Peninsula that's in Wisconsin that's not in the Lower Peninsula. Yeah. So it's a pretty common theme around here. It's like if it's in Wisconsin, it's probably in the Upper Peninsula, probably not in the Lower Peninsula.
Yeah,
it's just how it goes.
No, but yeah. If you can get your hands on it, I think you'll enjoy it.
I want some of that Cristeros, man. I want some of that.
I had Cristeros the other night for the first time. It was definitely good.
Yeah, I've only ever had one IPA I liked. It was you ever had the Sierra Nevada? Mm-hmm. That one's pretty good. So if it's anything like that, I'd probably like it.
Like the IPAs are something where I've wanted to like them, but I've never
I don't want to.
Yeah, like
I don't care. I'm just like
it's just like I want to like this. It made me look refined. But I just can't.
You're like one of those guys that puts a glass of scotch out and you're like sipping it like oof.
No, I do like scotch.
Do you? Okay.
And, yeah, okay. Particularly scotch and Irish whiskey. That's if I'm drinking hard liquor. That's.
Are you Irish ancestry or you just like it?
I have a lot of Irish ancestry. I don't know how much. I mean, I'm not 100% Irish. Like I know my mom's maiden name is Dutch, but I know her dad and her grandmother and all them were Irish, and I have Irish. So, and then my dad's side has a bunch of Irish. So,
what do you think of the fact that the Irish who are indentured servants and practically slaves to Britain are treated as if we're the same as everybody else? I'm just kidding.
Well, if you follow me on Twitter, you know I make fun of the British quite a bit, actually.
Honestly, I cheer for the Irish independence of the UK, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Just kidding. No, but seriously, yeah.
No, but seriously, yeah. If I get the call to arms, People's Zouave's heading to Ireland. Definitely gonna happen. Pope Patrick the First. Is there a Pope? There's never been a Pope Patrick.
Not yet.
Oh, could be. Could be. That would be interesting. You get a good Celtic Pope in there.
That'd be crazy.
In my lifetime, that would be pretty crazy. Yeah, we've got a Polish Pope. Might as well we got an Argentinian Pope.
Now we got a South American.
And they had a English Pope. It was Pope Adrian IV, right?
I have no idea.
I think that was the English Pope. There's only one in the entire history of the church. One English Pope. Clearly a mistake.
Yeah, the Italians have a monopoly on it.
Well, do you know why the English Pope is such a big deal?
No, I don't think so.
Do you know what the English Pope did?
What?
He put out a papal bull granting England the rights to Ireland.
Did he really?
Yeah, in his short papacy, he put out a papal decree that the
Okay.
English could have Ireland.
Not a
I'm not
fan.
joking. And they never had another English pope again.
Jeez.
Like they cited that, like even in like the 1800s. I read a book that covers like a lot of this, and it's a fiction, but it's a historical fiction. So a lot of it's true. They would cite that papal bull, like, oh, your Catholic Ireland Pope gave you to us, like you're ours. It's like your Pope decreed it. Like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of hard to argue with.
Yeah, right.
Catholic.
Yeah, because you got, I mean, really the only other, Ireland was completely Catholic, and then you have the Anglicans that show up and basically put the Irish into servitude, and then to the north you have the Scottish Presbyterians.
Yeah.
And they basically took Northern Ireland for themselves. So, anyway, the book is great. You should read it. It's called, not Exodus, that's his other book. Trinity. It's called Trinity. It's a good Catholic name for a book. The guy that wrote, the author is Leon Uris, and don't let that bother you. Okay. He wrote a bunch of other books about Israel and stuff, and people were like, you just want to write books about Israel. And then he wrote two books about Ireland that are phenomenal. So he's like, he basically did, up yours, guys. I'm going to write this book about Ireland. And he did a good job.
Speaking of authors that need to write, freaking George R.R. Martin needs to freaking finish his books.
Do you read those?
I read them years ago, and I've never seen the show.
Okay.
I want to know. I want to know how this stupid thing ends.
Yeah, I refuse to read a book series that's not finished, so you won't catch me reading those books.
My gosh! Like, well, it started out because years ago. I was on a job in Australia, probably about 2013.
You did a job in Australia?
Yeah, I've traveled all over the world.
Really?
I've been to Australia, Saudi Arabia, Oman. Like Germany, Poland, just a bunch of different places.
I don't have to ask you what you do for a living after this podcast is over, unless you want to talk about it.
No, I just work in oil and gas.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I almost got shipped over to China at one point in time to help with some construction work going on over there, without getting into too many details. Well, I declined. It's like, nope, I ain't going over there. And this was in like 2017, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. But
yeah,
it was interesting.
No, so I was making fun of him for reading the first book, and because the first book is called Game of Thrones, but the whole series is called A Song of Ice and Fire.
Right.
And I was making fun of him. I was like, dude, you're reading fantasy. I was like, dude, you're so lame. And he's like, dude, you should try it. It's good. So I was like, okay. He gave it. I started reading. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. So I just finished reading the whole series up to book 5.
If the books are anything like the TV show, I would feel like I have to go to confession after reading them.
So I've heard, So I've heard that the show gets pornographic.
Very raunchy. It gets raunchy.
Raunchy. If I remember correctly, now this was years ago. If I remember correctly, the books leave a lot to the imagination.
That's good because the show doesn't.
Yeah, so I don't remember the books going into any detail on stuff like that. Obviously, there were parts where it talks about so and so slept with so and so, or did whatever the case may be. But it never. I don't remember the book. I don't remember off the top of my head the books ever getting into detail.
The only fantasy books that not the only ones. The only ones written for adults that I don't remember ever reading anything like that in the books was like Lord of the Rings. Most fantasy will at least allude to these two characters did the biblical act at this way on this date, and the child was born, and so it's like. Generally, you don't get the details. At least I prefer not to get them in the first place, just because I don't care. I don't need to hear that stuff in a book. I'd rather hear about which king slaughtered which prince in which kingdom, that kind of stuff.
Well, but sorry, go ahead.
But the Lord of the Rings, like, it tastefully gets through all that without doing any of that. So
the thing that I really liked about the Game of Thrones book series, The Song of Ice and Fire, is that nobody was safe from dying. Like, you had no idea what was going to happen. And I know my freaking favorite character died in book 1.
Was that Was that the Red Wedding? Or was that a
No, no.
different one?
Red Wedding was like book 3 or 4.
Oh wow.
What's his name? The father.
Oh Ned.
Ned. Yeah,
Yeah,
Ned.
Ned.
Yeah, he. Yeah, I was really enjoying his character, and then he died. I'm like, what?
Well, you would have known had you've seen the show as soon as you seen who's playing him. Like he's not going to last the season
Yeah.
because it was Sean Bean or whatever.
Yeah. See, I'd read the books before the show ever even came out.
Oh no, I'm not saying you did. I'm just it made me laugh because the second you see him playing a character, he's Boromir, dies in the first movie. He's like Ned Stark, dies in the first season. Every show he's in, he dies. Even Medici, he was in the Medici show, and he dies in that one too.
Two things here, and I'm gonna have a follow-up question to it. It does kind of get into the religious aspect of it. But have you ever read the fantasy? There's a fantasy series called Name of the Wind. You ever read that?
Nope.
I read the first book and it was pretty good, but I mean that was pre-Catholic days. But what do you think about all where people would talk about you shouldn't read Harry Potter or some of these other fantasy books because it can lead you into.
I'm against Harry Potter, but not as strongly as some people are. Mostly because there's just better stuff out there. And why would you expose yourself to that kind of content when there's better books that you could be reading?
Yeah.
Like there's no I'm not saying Harry Potter is a poorly written series. And I'm not saying it's the devil. I'm not that, but if you could read a series that doesn't include witchcraft, then why not skip that one altogether?
Yeah, and I say that, and I ask you that because when it comes to reading these books, sometimes, especially with fantasy, it really, since I've become Catholic and I've started, because growing up we didn't necessarily.
I read them all growing up, so I read them. So I'm not saying that this is not somebody saying I've never read them and I'm saying no. I read them growing up, my whole family did growing up. But I would not have my children read it just because there's so much better stuff out there. And it's not like it's gonna improve their faith life to read it. So if it was like a really good faith book with some questionable things in it, well then that might be a different story. But there's nothing Catholic about Harry Potter.
Yeah, and I guess my question or my point is that when you start really thinking about books in that light, because I had never before about it's got actual witchcraft and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're it seems like you really start questioning every fantasy genre book, because to be honest, if you didn't know, for me, if I didn't know Lord of the Rings was written by a devout Catholic and that it had, as people argue, Catholic undertones to it and all that, you would see the magic or you would see the whatever in it, you'd be like, is this appropriate for me to read? So
you would have to investigate for sure.
I was going to say the discernment in it is a difficult part in these books for me at this point. So if
anything is questionable, then you should read it first as the parent, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. When it comes to the kids, yeah. I'm just saying, when people talk about you should avoid this book entirely, it was like, well, how do I know?
There's a really good book you should read then. I mean, I think he's a little bit more strict than I would be, but have you heard of Michael D. O'Brien?
No.
He wrote the Father Elijah book. He's really kind of prolific amongst the trads more so than your standard Catholic, but still a lot of Catholics read his stuff. He wrote 2 books about which books your kids should read and how old they should be when they read them. One of them is called A Landscape Filled with Dragons. And then the second one is called Harry Potter and the Paganization of Culture.
Okay.
So I've got both of them. I read them both. The Harry Potter one is better just because he explains why he breaks down each of the books in the Harry Potter series and why he disagrees with them. His main complaint is a lot of the Harry Potter books have a theme of the ends justify the means, which is not a Catholic teaching at all.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then additionally, he takes some serious issue with, there's a part in, I don't remember if it's the first, second, or third book, but it's when Nearly Headless Nick has his death day party. All of the elements there are what would be present for a satanic black mass. It's not in your face, this is what's happening, but if you sit there and think about it. one of the Harry Potter books. It's got the
One of the Harry
if you-
Potter books. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's here. We'll look at the good old Google. It'll tell me which one has the Death Day party in it.
Well, I let me say this is that like I know my oldest daughter, she's a pretty big reader, but she's more into like a lot of girls or kind of the romance stuff. So you
Yeah.
obviously have to be careful with that stuff. But me and Mark through our podcast, we met a Catholic author. Her name is Amanda Lahr. We've interviewed her twice, and she writes, Catholic. Some of them are romance, some of them are adventure, but she's a Catholic author, and she's part of like a, lack of better terms, a Catholic guild where there's a bunch of other Catholic authors that write for young teens, young girls in particular. But I mean,
Okay.
obviously it's open to everybody. But I know my daughter's read some of her books and everything. So there are good Catholic authors out there.
Here, I'm going to share this real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. This is the book I read. It's called, if it'll pull it up, Harry Potter and the Paganization of Culture. And I'm going to exit that out because it had a zip code somewhere in that screen, so we don't need that on there. Anyways, it's by Michael D. O'Brien. He's done a few interviews like EWTN, stuff like that. He's a really interesting guy. He used to do artwork. I think there's another podcaster that when he was writing his books, he reached out to Michael D. O'Brien and he gave him some good tips and tricks on getting published and all that. Might have been Tim Gordon, actually. I don't remember for sure, but one of those guys did. Anyways, so he goes through and he tells you exactly like this is what I thought of each of the Harry Potter books. And then after he's done with Harry Potter, then he like talks about what's that one? It's it's a female author. Wrinkle in Time. Have you read those?
No, have you heard
He
of
talks
it?
about Wrinkle in Time. He talks about Percy Jackson,
I've heard
those
of
books, and a couple other ones that are like pretty prominent. And then tells you like where they're gray, but they're morally fine so long as your kids are well founded and they talk to you about what they're reading. And one of the things that he maintains though, and something I wouldn't have thought of, is the kind of manipulation to make dragons almost good guys. Now, I never thought of that being a bad thing, but when you go back to the serpent in Genesis, like all of the imagery in the Bible shows serpents to be, except for like when Moses' staff turns into a serpent, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
The idea that these like big mythical dragon-like creatures are always bad, like or even not necessarily bad, but nature. So it's like they're not on your side.
All right.
And that's one of the things he talks about is like this manipulation that shows nature, dragons, etc., being on the good side, bad side, morally gray area. It's confusing for kids because, like in King Arthur, or like the medieval stuff, they slay the dragon, they're the good guys, that kind of thing. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I really hadn't thought about it too much.
It's kind of a weird thing because I wouldn't have thought of that being an issue, but now I've had to think about it, and
I've
don't
never
know.
really
I know
thought
what I
about
know.
them making dragons good guys. I mean, I guess they do it, and I guess I never considered it being a bad thing.
Well, up until the last, really since probably about just before Vatican II, most literature and media portrayed dragons as the bad guys. You don't get Puff the Magic Dragon. You don't get any of those things until after like the last 70 years or so. All of literature before that, like, you don't really find a lot of literature where dragons are good guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
And then the other thing that he talks about is we're not living in Christendom anymore. So like there are books where the foundation, like it may just be like a secular book and not have any like leanings one way or the other on the Catholic Church, but the moral grounds have changed because you don't have Christendom as the foundation.
Right.
Whereas most of the books written pre-1900s had Christendom as the foundation. So it's a super interesting book, and he's written some good fiction too. Like Father Elijah is supposed to be very good, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard of them. I haven't heard of the Father Elijah books.
There's the Alpha Centauri book. He wrote a sci-fi. Anthony, when I was talking to him, said that was one of the best books he's ever read. So
Which one?
it's called like Alpha Centauri. Let me Google it.
Is it a fiction book?
Yeah, it's fiction. It's like a sci-fi. Alpha Centauri, Michael D. O'Brien. He's a Canadian author, by the way. He's just happened to skip north of me. Let's see.
Oh, well,
Voyage to Alpha Centauri. You can't read it because he's
I can't
Canadian.
read them. Then it's Canadian.
Is that how you feel about Kennedy Hall too? There it is, right there.
I make no exceptions.
This is the book though. It's
I've heard
Voyage
that
to
one.
Alpha. Really, it's got very similar artwork to, I don't know if you've read it, but the C.S. Lewis space trilogy.
I mean, I know he has a space trilogy, but I haven't read C.S. Lewis's space trilogy. No.
It's very good. The third book is the best out of the three. Although I personally do like the second one. So that's a really interesting one, though. So here's something that I struggle with. And we talked about this on your podcast a little bit. How about like books that kind of take a biblical point of view and kind of warp it a little bit? Or like they change something, or there's something related to something that happens in the Bible in the book. Yeah. Is that something you want to like stay away from? Do you not mind it? Do you have any thoughts on it at all?
Well, when you talk about warp, I mean, I guess the question is, in what way are they warping it? Are they?
Paralandra is the second book in C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy, and the book is essentially the serpent trying to trick Eve,
right?
And C.S. Lewis rewrites it where there's a third person who shows up. Not Adam, not Eve, not the fourth person, I guess, who basically doesn't allow Genesis's fall to happen, which is super interesting. Because the whole time the book is go ahead.
So it's kind of like an alternate.
Kind of, yeah, but it's on a different planet. It's sci-fi, so it's not the Earth. Earth still falls in this book, but he goes to another planet where Genesis is happening all over again.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's super interesting because, like, a lot of it is that the devil doesn't sleep. He will outlast you. So you have to do every effort you can while you're awake and just hope to God that Eve doesn't eat the apple, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, in that situation, I don't think personally I would have issue with it because it's, to your point, it's just making the idea that Satan, just like the Bible says, goes around... how does it go? Like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour.
Yeah,
he doesn't stop. He doesn't take breaks. And I guess if I understand what you're saying in that book, in C.S. Lewis's book, the Earth still falls. There's just other fictitious.
This is a fictitious planet where
where he's
fallen
doing that.
Yet.
And I don't know. I don't really believe in necessarily those type of situation. Where there's other planets with other people that have other plan. I mean, I could be wrong, but I also think those are kind of sometimes fun to explore and talk about, just like what ifs.
Well, sci-fi used to be used as like a plot experimentation device.
Yeah,
and that's what C.S. Lewis uses it as. Whereas
I don't have a problem. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Now, I would, for your kids in particular, like if they're warping biblical history, like
Da Vinci Code.
Like in a negative way.
Yeah,
then it's going to be like, well, no, you don't need to read that because you're not mature enough in your faith to really differentiate like this is wrong and this isn't.
I won't even read Da Vinci Code myself personally.
I've never read it.
Like I feel that strongly about just not.
I haven't even seen the movie. I know they had a movie about it. I've never even seen it.
I haven't seen it either. A lot of television for me occurred prior to what I would call my strong reversion just before COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't watch nearly as much TV. I try to make sure that what I do watch doesn't have anything questionable. Like, I thought about subscribing to the VidAngel service. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've used it before. Yeah.
Have you? It seems like a really good service if you're trying to watch things that otherwise you wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny when you really start trying to be more serious in your faith, and you really like, okay, I don't need to consume this music, I don't need to consume this show or this movie. You really start realizing how much you've become desensitized to, especially particularly language, because you're like, I don't remember them cussing that much.
Right?
Well, they cussed that much before. You just didn't recognize it because you weren't looking for it.
Or like you'll find that some various workplaces or careers, you're just around a lot of that language, and
Oh,
You
yeah.
get sucked into it, and half the time I'm like, all right, sorry, I used the vulgar word again, in confession. He's like, 3 Hail Marys.
Yeah, no, I mean, in the oil field, excuse me, you'd hear it all the time. Now, I will say, I'm not saying that I've been perfect about it, but using vulgar language, but I know one thing that was instilled in me at a very young age: under no circumstances do we take God's name in vain. So that's
Yeah.
actually something I've never struggled with because, I mean, when I was young, I got popped in the mouth pretty good for stuff like that. So,
Well, I will. Look, I can't give my dad a lot of credit for my faith upbringing, but one of the things that I, to this day, have never heard come out of his mouth is any profanity. Period.
yeah,
Like, he just doesn't believe in it. He thinks it makes you sound stupid.
yeah.
So he just we just don't use that kind of language. So growing
And our,
up, we just didn't do that.
yeah, and our society tells you the more you cuss, the higher your IQ is. Well, not really that worried how high my IQ is, so I can cuss.
Yeah, let me get a 150 IQ and go to hell. That would be great.
Yeah, yeah. Who cares?
I feel like sometimes intelligence can be a barrier. Like if you overthink things, it can be a barrier to your faith.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. Because
You can like intellectually disprove your thoughts and your faith, like, and then realize like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing to myself these last
yeah. I
however
mean, it, it
long?
it can do that, but if you let it, the high intelligence can really become a pride issue.
Yeah,
You
that
know.
too. Yeah, yeah. You can think you know
Um.
better than people, and
I mean, ultimately, you can reach a point where you think you know better than God, and that's obviously that's down the wrong
I
path.
think look, this might be a controversial take, but I think in some of these sedevacantist type groups, you have a little bit of that going on where they just think they've got it all figured out, and I don't think anybody's got it all figured out personally. But
Yeah.
when you get into these highly intellectual groups, it does kind of become, it leads us back to the Gnosticism thing again, because you end up with like, I have this hidden knowledge that nobody. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think our world is kind of running amok with that. I mean, across all groups, yeah, everybody's right, and nobody wants to actually have open dialogue or listen. It's kind of like, I mean, Twitter's a perfect example of that, right? Like, if somebody wants to have like an actual honest dialogue, I'm more than willing to discuss it. But as soon as people like Saint Anthony of Padua here, I know he's a set of a contest, but he's actually
Is he?
an yeah, yeah, no, but he's an enjoyable one online. He's not one of the ones that are just like all over you all the time talking about how you lack faith and all that. Like, if somebody comes on there at me and they just want to say, well, you're outside the church, or you lack faith, or you're not really a Catholic. To be honest, I'm kind of petty to where I'm like, okay, if that's how you want to go, I'll just say the same thing back to you. I mean, but like I said, I don't know what his actual name is, but Saint Anthony of Padua, like, he doesn't really do that. Like, obviously we're gonna have disagreements because he's a sedevacantist and I'm not, but he's actually an enjoyable account to interact with on there. And I feel like if you were to engage him on that topic, I feel like he would have like like an open dialogue where, like I said, some of them, they just immediately devolve into, you're not Catholic, and I'm like, well, if you're going to go down that route, we're just going to get in a pissing match.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm not. I have no judgment for other people. Period.
Oh, for
when it
sure.
comes to that
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure.
I take more of the Kennedy Hall's route. I just listened to his video and it made a lot of sense to me. It's
Yeah.
like, I think intellectually you can convince yourself that the state of Acantis opinion could be correct. I think you could.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spend the effort to do that because I just don't think it's going to benefit me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But I think you
No.
could, in some way, I think you could intellectually convince yourself of this, most of the, like, but then you fall into these fallacies because, like, how do you get a new pope? You know what I mean? Like, how? And then,
Yeah, and
let's say you do, is he the real pope or not? And it's just, there's too many logical holes for me to even consider it.
yeah, and I've seen their responses and answer to that. And to be honest, I'm not gonna argue with it because
Yeah,
again,
exactly.
well, I'm just saying they
I'm just
make
saying, like,
good.
for me, I don't see the, like, I'm just gonna keep going to church, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, they make, like I said, they have good arguments and stuff like that. I'm not gonna deny that. I'm just not fully uh on their end of it yet. But and to be honest, I'm not going. The only time I'm going to tell somebody, kind of like I did today, where you're outside the church, is if they start yelling that at me. Well, then I'm, like I said, I'm kind of petty. I'll just do the same thing. I'm like, okay, if
Right.
this is the route you want to go, I'll play your game. It's Twitter. I don't really care. But in the times that we live in, I don't really think most of us, well, nobody's got to figure it out, and it's kind of hard to say you're Catholic and you're not in today's environment because there is a lot of confusion, you know.
I will say that if you had the choice between being somebody who questions the papacy and somebody who's lukewarm, I think the first the former is better than the latter, because Jesus even says, like, the lukewarms are the worst.
Yeah, well, if you reach a point where you're questioning all that, you're it really shows that you're at a minimum taking your faith very seriously.
Exactly, and I think that is, and the idea of doubt or questioning is, in an honest and how do I want to say this? If you have questions and you're asking them honestly, I don't think there's a problem with that.
Right.
But you should probably find, like, a spiritual guide, preferably a priest who knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
If you're in that boat, like, I definitely recommend utilize your local spiritual guidance, which would be your pastor, your priest,
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
take advantage of the fact that they're there for you and the congregation and everybody at the mass. And anyway, there was a word that bothered me recently. Tell me if this bothers you or not. But I heard somebody say, "Express your testimony," and I'm like, that feels like such a Protestant thing, like using the word testimony.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's kind of cringe to me. I don't really like that terminology. Probably because when we think about that, we're thinking of these altar calls and these people going up
Yeah.
and express your testimony seems very narcissistic to me as well. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's room for that, and we've all benefited from people's testimony or whatever, their conversion story.
I think
I
just call it a conversion story. Why do we need
yeah,
testimony?
but if I'm sitting here saying I'm going to express my testimony, to me that just, I don't know.
It sounds a bit
Kind of
narcissistic. Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
The other one that gets me is, and this is just me. You probably don't have a problem with this word, but anytime somebody asks me, like, about the submissiveness or unsubmissiveness of, like, my spouse, I'm like, okay, first off, that's my marriage, and it feels weird that you're asking about that.
I don't know.
You
if
know what I
anybody's
mean?
ever
Like,
asked.
doesn't it feel kind of weird? Like, so, like, how submissive is your wife? Like, what?
I've never had anybody ask me that.
Somebody asked me that on Twitter, and I was just so uncomfortable. I was like, why would you ask me that? Like, that's just. Are you trying to, like, vicariously live some fantasy life through my response, or, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I've never had anybody ask me that.
It was just weird. I was like, I'm just not responding to this because I just feel like this is weird, and yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, Twitter's wild.
The questions you get on Twitter, it's just like, and then once you see the green frog, you know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
you know which group of people they are.
Well, I've reached a point, like, on that app where, I mean, I did this a while back. If somebody wants to say that I'm stupid, I'll just play the part. If they want to say this or that, I just play whatever they accuse me of. I'm just going to play that part. Now, like, if people want to have like I said, when people have a serious conversation and they're being cordial and they're being respectful, I'll do that. But as soon as they accuse me of something, I'll just play that part and I'll just start trolling them because I don't.
Trolling is fun.
Twitter is supposed to be fun for me. I'm not on there to like be Mr. Serious. I'm on there to have a good time, enjoy interactions with people and everything else. And if you're going to come on there and you're going to try to be like crap on everything, I'll just crap with you. I don't care. Like,
I'll
you
crap
know,
with you, like Roman
yeah,
style. We're just all gonna go to the crapper together.
yeah. I mean,
Have you
whatever.
have you seen have you seen the toilets of the Roman Empire?
No.
It's like a communal open space
Oh
bathroom.
yes, yes, I have. Where
So
they,
everybody's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
when you said that, I'm just picturing you. You're like, all right, Mark, let's go, and you're like walking up to the.
yeah. Yeah. So,
Can you imagine? Because like they have all the bathrooms, like everybody's facing each other, right? And like there's no curtains. This is the Roman Empire,
it's
so
like
people are
freaking
just.
prison.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, they're wearing like robes where you can just up, you go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
down. You know, so
Yeah.
it's not like today where you got to take your pants down and all that,
Yeah.
and your shirt barely covers your stomach. And
Well, I don't know.
I've seen some pretty wild stuff at the Walmart. Let's put it that way.
This conversation has really, really taken a turn.
No, well, here's something then for you. This is something I wanted to cover. How important do you think, as dads, it is for us to stay in shape?
Well, I mean, it's important in general, but yeah, no, I mean, it's especially important as dads. Just for one, we're getting back to the example, right? You want to set
Yeah.
the example for your kids. You want to be able to do stuff with your kids. Like, I just turned 43. Am I in the best shape I used to be? No, but I want to be. Like, I've got my 3 and 4-year-old constantly asking me every day, Dad, let's wrestle. Dad, can we wrestle? Dad, they're always wanting to wrestle. They're always wanting to fight on the ground. They're wanting to throw footballs or baseballs or do this or that. And yeah, I can't go at the speed I used to, but I can do those things with them. And then just from a purely physical aspect of being able to defend your family and all that. I mean, we have an obligation to defend our family, and yes, guns should be part of that equation. But realistically, are you always going to be in access, or if somebody surprises you or whatever, are you going to be able to access it on your person at that precise moment you need to? I mean, you need to be able to physically defend your family, and on top of it, I don't know if you've seen this going. I've heard it many years, but there's a new one going around where they interview child sex predators, and they say the kids they target are the ones that look like they have weak dads. And
I did see that advertisement. Yeah.
There's been a recent one on it that's been going around quite a bit, and so that really should register with us as fathers. Like, even if you're all show and no go, you can really push away a lot of these guys from your kids because you look like you can go. I mean, and there's more to it than just the physical, obviously, but yeah. And you find that if you become mentally strong through the physical, it's really going to help your spiritual life. Like, for instance, we'll just take jiu-jitsu. You're constantly having to humble yourself on the mats. The mats don't lie. You're constantly in uncomfortable situations where you're making choices by the second. Do I quit or do I push on? Do I quit? And every time you push on, you get that much stronger. Now transfer that to your spiritual life. It's going to help you spiritually, which is obviously should make you a better father and a better example to your kids. So I really think fathers have an obligation to be physically fit for their kids. And I'm not saying like you have to be a bodybuilder. You've got a freaking, you shouldn't enjoy life, because I'm not what I used to be. I carry a little bit of extra weight and stuff like that because, I'm not on these strict diets. I'm not on all these things, like if it's a weekend and I'm at somebody's house and they're having beers and burgers, well, I'm going to eat a burger. I'm not like training for anything that I need to do that, and I have no purpose. So yes, live your life, but at the same time also realize you have an obligation to physically take care of yourself.
Absolutely. There's actually a quote in Sirach. It says that the riches of the riches of, I've got this quote somewhere, but it's like something to do with the riches of the physical health are greater than any riches of material wealth. It's something along those lines. So if you are physically fit, no money can buy that. You could pay somebody to train you, but no money can keep you fit. Like you can't just pay money and be fit. It doesn't work that
No,
way.
no. Yeah, you have to put in the blood, sweat, and tears.
All fathers are required to eat burgers and have beer.
Well,
Yes.
don't worry, I fulfill that requirement.
the the last thing I was gonna say, because I know I've already held you longer than you guys' average podcast. I think you guys usually do an hour.
Hour and a half, but it's no
Oh, you
big
do
deal.
an hour and
I
a half?
mean,
Okay, all right. Yeah, I
that's
just don't want to
okay.
hold you too long. If at any point you need to go, you need to let me know. And
Yeah,
I
I
will.
mean, I will probably need to jump off here pretty soon, but yeah.
I was gonna say. Oh, I think it was. It might have been Father Ripperger, but it might have been just a random priest online. Could have even been Father Mike Schmitz for all I remember. But it was something along the lines of when you can get control of the faculties of the body, like lust, gluttony, any of these things that affect your will, your ability to deny self. It makes you a much stronger-willed person overall.
Yeah.
So I've taken that to heart. So I've been trying to get my fasting game up. You're not supposed to talk about it, but as men, this is something I think we have to all pull together on. If we want to all be able to fast, you need to have a fasting, like kind of like if you're going through like AA, you got to have a buddy to help you, right? With fasting, I feel like if nobody else is keeping you in check, it can be very difficult on your own.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that Exodus 90 program?
Yeah, I don't think I can fulfill Exodus 90 is the problem.
Well, I was just gonna make a point on that. Like, I felt horribly because me and a couple buddies decided to do it like 3 or 4 years ago. We decided to do it like 3 days before it started.
Oh no, you didn't know what you're getting into, did you?
You're supposed to have a spiritual advisor, and you're supposed to do the check-ins. And to your point, yes, you do need accountability partners because stuff like that. Again, unless you're a saint and you have the graces needed, it's going to be hard to do these things alone. And I think that's the point. We were not made to try to conquer, the sins of this life, to conquer all of our shortcomings alone.
Yeah. All right, I got this guy's help right here. That's his podcast.
Oh no, that's the old name.
I'm joking.
Oh.
that was a joke. It's in his title right here, TEX CATHEDRA.
Yeah.
And if he ever opens up an accounting business, he's gonna call it TEX CATHEDRA.
Yeah. So I mean, I will text communicate people, and as me and Mark say, it's worse than an excommunication.
Because you can't go to Texas.
Well, we don't undo them, and me
That's
and
what I'm
Mark
saying,
me and Mark have text communicated each other many times.
How does that work? You guys form your own podcast?
Yeah, basically, and then we come back together because we're both text communicated. So we're like, oh well, we're already outside.
So wait, is this person being serious or are they joking around? Because I'm assuming this person knows you're in TEX CATHEDRA.
Oh,
I'm assuming this guy knows.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well,
I just know he
Twitter?
likes the. I know he's on Twitter. I know he likes the Dodgers, which is it's already strike 1 and 2 for him.
Anyways, if you don't know what Jason's podcast is with Mark, it's the TEX CATHEDRA, which we posted at the beginning. I might even still have it up. I do. There you go. So if you don't know what it is, definitely go check out. And if you look at their most recent live stream, skip that one because that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That's for sure. Anyway, I'm gonna let Jason off the hook here in a minute. But is there anything you want to shout out before we call this thing?
No, I don't really have anything to promote or say or that hasn't already been said.
Sounds like a plan. Definitely don't go use the old Roman toilets. They're not functional anymore, and everybody will see what you're doing. So don't do that. That's what I'm going to say. All right. Go ahead.
What's kind of funny is when you go in the Middle East, like they got Western and I guess you want to call them Eastern toilets, which are just holes in the ground.
I think I've heard that before. Yeah. Is it seriously just like a hole in the ground, literally?
Pretty much. Like I stopped at a gas station in the middle of nowhere, and it smelled so atrocious in there that I just walked outside, found a rock over there, did my business over there.
Oh my gosh!
But the thing that was craziest to me is one time I went to the bathroom, and I'm walking out to go wash my hands. And right before prayer, you know, the Muslims, they have to do their
Yep.
their
Yeah,
ritual
they wash
washing.
up.
And a lot of the bathrooms will have like an area in which they can go do that. And then they'll have sinks, and then they'll have the bathrooms or whatever. Well, I don't know what airport it was at, but they didn't have that area to wash. So they were washing their feet in the sink. And,
Ooh.
and I just walk in the bathroom. I go, I know I'm cleaner than their feet. I'm not washing my hands in these sinks right now.
Oh, no.
So I just walked on out.
Well, it's funny you say that. So when I was like a 10 or 12-year-old, went to my first Tigers game, right? Detroit Tigers game. And the sinks, they're like the ones that are like a little bit above waist level, and they've got the automatic water coming out and like spurts all the way across. You know, like kind of like the communal urinals where it's just like one long thing.
Yeah.
I go over to wash my hands, and I immediately froze because the bathroom was so packed full of dudes that they were peeing in the sink.
Oh.
And I was just like, nope, I'm out of here. Nope, I'm not doing this. Forget that.
No way. Ain't no way.
Couldn't pay me to use that sink. So it's kind of similar. Although when I told this Enoch, so I might as well just say it here. I went to University of Michigan Dearborn, and that's like got a very large Muslim population. So I know exactly what you're talking about with the washing up in the sinks, and
yeah,
it's pretty wild because they'll all jump in a group, and then they'll go do whatever it is that they do, the prayer, whatever it is. But they all go in, they all wash up, they all go out, and I'm just like, okay.
I'm telling you, when they do those call to prayers, you better not. If you don't want to be in that store for a little bit, you better walk on out before they shut the doors.
Is that really? Is that how they do it? Like the communal prayer thing?
So if you're in Saudi Arabia, for instance, at prayer time, all the stores and all that will shut up, lock up, and during prayer, like if you're in the store, you're there until prayer's done.
How long does it take?
I don't know, probably 20, 30 minutes, maybe.
Jeez, that much?
It's
longer than
because they got to
Divine Office half the time.
Because they got to go there, then they got to get back and do all that. But I mean, a lot of times
okay.
So they don't. A lot of times the store owners would also stay. But like I said, like if you're wanting to go to the store, if you go during that time, you just have to hang outside till they finish.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the only thing I could think of that would be similar is like back when the bells would ring and everybody would do the Angelus.
Yeah.
Back in the good old days of Christendom.
Back in the good days. Yeah.
So
yeah.
It'd be sweet if like there were still bells that would go off at 6, 12, and 6, and you could do the Angelus with everybody around you. That'd be pretty sick. That'd be pretty sick. Yeah, maybe. Pray for that. That's for sure. All right. On that note, Jason, thanks for joining me, and I'm glad we got the technical stuff figured out because I was getting a little nervous about 15 minutes into this thing. We're still trying to figure out, is it my mic or his headphones or?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I never had that problem, but I appreciate you having me on. I know we kind of got off topic, but I enjoyed just chatting it up with you.
That's kind of the point of this podcast. So just go off into the weeds. We got talking about Roman toilets.
Yeah, I'm there.
All right. On that note, last thing. I believe it's Pius X, but if I'm wrong, comment down below and tell me who really didn't like Mozart. Pretty sure it was Pius X.
Oh.
But Benedict XVI made him a doctor of music, so I guess he's been resolved. But
I had no idea.
Yeah, I just found out. Yeah, Benedict was a huge Mozart fan. So you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
When I remember to tell you what it is. All right. Let's see you guys on the next one.